Hello, spooky listeners and watchers. Welcome back to Spooky Shenanigans, your podcast for all things spooky, creepy, and downright strange. I am one of your hosts, Nell, and with me, as always, is the lovely resident skeptic, PJ.
Hello.
And this week we are diving into the somewhat bizarre case of Robert the Doll.
Yeah, bizarre's an understatement. Wow. Mad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of dolls, but this is, it's a doozy.
Yeah, and I've got a scary story to share about dolls later on in the podcast.
Ooh, okay. I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah. Kind of plays in with my dislike for clowns and porcelain dolls, so stay tuned for that one.
That's interesting because I also have a dislike of clowns.
Oh, there we go.
Well, you know this anyway, but yeah, some of our listeners may not. But,
no, some of our newbies. And again, like I said last week, if you're new and you don't know these stories, get back to season 1 and listen them, or else.
Well, Thomas will get you.
Exactly, or Jack Skellington will get you. And for those who aren't watching YouTube, I just showed a picture of Jack Skellington. I mean, hardly a surprise.
So, for those of you who aren't too familiar with the way we do things on this podcast, basically PJ will give a kind of rough outline as to the topic of the week, and then I'll jump in with some more detail. So, over to you, PJ.
Thank you very much, Nell. I avoided the Elvis impression again that time. It's difficult. It's hard to ignore it. Anyway, listeners and viewers, here we are about Robert the Doll. So located at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, you'll find a century-old, 3-foot-tall, straw-filled doll. With his weathered face, beady black eyes, and sailor suit, he kind of reminds me of me.
I was gonna say. Wait a minute.
This is planned. And again, listeners, if you're not watching, go watch the YouTube video, you'll get it. But he's the epitome of innocence. Yeah, definitely not me. Until you hear his story. And any number of the shit films they've made about him. This, dear listeners... Well, I was waiting with bated breath for you to make a comment about that film. We might bring it up later.
Be grumbling in the background.
Exactly. This, dear listeners, is no ordinary doll. This is Robert, a gift given to a young boy named Robert Eugene Otto in the early 1900s. The doll, rumoured to be cursed by the servant who gifted it, has been at the centre of many terrifying tales ever since. The young Robert, or Gene, as he was known, developed an unusual attachment to the doll, as most boys do with, like, childhood things. I had a little dog called Spot. Yeah, I've still got him somewhere. His squeaker still just about works. He's almost the same age as Robert. Just like me. So the strange events began to unfold. Household items were found thrown across rooms. Eerie giggles echoed in the dead of night. And the young Gene started to have nightmares, blaming Robert for any mischief or wrongdoing. Now, as time passed, the tales grew more sinister, as they do. Neighbours claimed to see Robert move from window to window when the family was out. Others swore they heard the phantom sound of Robert's giggling. Now, I've been practicing this all day. Are you ready for it?
Oh, no. Go on, then. Okay, yeah. I'll give you that. I would not want to hear that at like 2 a.m.
Right,
Absolutely not.
we're going to have a replay of Serrano. I'm going to stand outside of your apartment now and do that at 2 a.m. That's when I then hear the pitter patter of small footsteps behind me and I start running. But what was
No.
once a but what was once a child's toy now instilled fear and dread in all of those who dared to cross its path. Even today, decades later, Robert the Doll continues to unsettle. Now a popular and unnerving museum exhibit, visitors and staff alike report strange occurrences around him. Bollocks. Cameras malfunction, unexplained chills creep up spines, and a sense of unease lingers in the air. Interestingly, it's believed Robert has a particular protocol for visitors. It is said that one must ask his permission to take his picture. If his head tilts to one side, permission is granted. But if not, he shows you his ass. Oh, sorry, wrong line. Oh, that was a totally different chat there. Anyway, I've killed Mel off now.
Pay respects.
Robert is going to hurt me.
Sorry, carry on. Oh.
But if his head doesn't tilt to one side, beware. Ignoring Robert's wishes has led many a visitor to write letters of apology, begging for Robert's forgiveness for the disrespect. For a doll that stands barely 3 feet tall, still taller than Nell, Robert's legend is enormous.
Rude.
He's a chilling reminder of the mysteries of our world, the unseen forces that lie beyond our comprehension, and the fine line that separates innocent playthings from objects of profound terror. And I'm going to dramatically close my book.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. That's all, folks. Anyway, now, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for that intro. That was pretty darn good.
Thank you. I'm learning. I'm taking your job soon.
Don't you dare. Oh, no. I always knew this day was come. Oh. Okay, so after that lovely little intro, let's get into a little bit more of the story, shall we?
Oh, yes, please.
So there's actually a term for a fear of dolls, which is pediophobia. And yes, I know.
I mean, quite a lot of people have a fear.
I know you don't have to say anything.
Yeah, for once, I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah. I know what we're all thinking here.
This is really hard not to say anything. I'll open myself up to way too many lawsuits.
Yeah, that's really not what we need. So, yeah. So, yes, pediophobia is a fear of dolls, and this is definitely something that Hollywood has kind of cashed in on in the world of horror over the last few years. You know, especially when you consider, films like the Chucky movies and Annabelle in recent times, of course. However, of course, I think Robert the Doll definitely deserves a mention in
absolutely.
the spooky doll category.
Well, there is one more film that Hollywood is releasing soon in the summer, actually, about a doll,
Oh,
and it's actually almost as scary, if not scarier. Barbie.
now that is purely terrifying. Absolutely.
That's the most evil doll that ever lived. Have you seen the trailer? I was like, no. What the? I was at the point of pulling my eyes out.
No, no, I can't say I have, and I hope I will never, and I hope I never will.
Yeah, that's not one for our list.
Anyway,
Anyway.
no. Anyway, so there seems to be a couple of different origin stories for Robert the doll. So what we do know is that he has been manufactured by the Steiff company, which is a German stuffed toy company. And this company had been founded by Marguerite Steiff in 1880. Although, interestingly, it was never actually sold as part of a line of toys from
Okay.
that company. But it's thought that the doll was initially one of a collection of like clown and jester dress dolls designed for like a store window display. So it really was kind of like a one of a kind doll, really. This
Oh.
wasn't like your run of the mill go out and buy one willy nilly kind of thing. It was
Mm.
a one of a kind toy. And it was given to a young boy called Robert Eugene Otto, or also known as Gene, around 1904. And he was born 25th of October 1900, which is the same date as me, so we're birthday twins, just different
Same year as
years.
well. Oh.
Quite you. Rude, again. But yes, I actually got quite excited when I saw that we shared a birthday. He was like, "Ah, wow, cool."
Do you know what I'm getting you for your birthday then?
You better damn not, buddy. You better damn not. So Robert was the youngest of four children, and his family were pretty well off and affluent. His parents owned a couple of pharmacies or drugstores, and they were often quite busy with the running of these. And so, the children were often left in the care of like the home help and nannies and that kind of thing, which would have been like pretty much the norm for that kind of time period, I imagine.
Yeah.
So some stories say that he was given as a birthday present by a family member, and others that he was given it by a servant who practiced voodoo and had been dismissed because of it. Now, I do kind of find the idea of a servant giving him this doll quite unlikely, simply for the fact that, they wouldn't have been cheap, these dolls.
Mm.
And I can't imagine a domestic servant kind of having that kind of money to, buy one of these. It's
Yeah. Plus, where did he live? Where did the family live?
over in Florida, I
Oh, it was
believe.
Florida, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I suppose it's still the area for voodoo, isn't it? The South. I mean, still a bit over from like Louisiana and everything, but
Hmm.
yeah, I agree with you on your point. Unless she found it in a skip, she wouldn't have been able to afford that.
No,
No.
no. And like it wouldn't have been too long after receiving the doll where kind of problems first started cropping up within the family. And now like straight from the get go, after receiving the doll, Robert was like completely obsessed with it. Like it went absolutely everywhere with him. You know, he even kind of insisted on having a place at the table set for him, like during mealtime. So he'd have like his own little chair and everything,
That's
and
cute.
would sit with the family as they were having their meals. Like, you know, like they were practically joined at the hip.
Yeah, that's cute. That's cute.
It is, and you know, I didn't start with like his parents had many concerns about it. It was just that, you know, oh, he's just you know, really, really attached to the doll, which yeah, most kids that age are. They yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah, I
they
mean,
have
yeah.
some kind of comforter.
Yeah, if you're still in single digits, then it's cute.
Mm.
If you were telling me he was 18 and was still doing that, yeah, it's a different story.
You just wait.
Oh, I'm
So
foreshadowing again.
maybe per maybe haps. So it wouldn't be too long after this that things would kind of start to take a strange turn, in the fact that he suddenly decided to name the doll Robert, and he would become like known by his middle name, Eugene or Gene,
Yeah.
as you mentioned in your intro, PJ. And then the family and the servants would swear they would like see the doll reportedly moving by itself around the house, and would hear like giggles and things like that coming from where the doll was. And occurrences would happen where Robert would be sat like up in his bedroom, and like they'd hear him talking to the doll, as you know you would hear any child when they're playing with their toys and stuff.
Yeah.
Only they would then hear a deep voice answer back to him, which apparently like was not really caused a concern at first, until they realised that, you know, this would have been far too deep a voice for a child of that age to be able to make.
Yeah, I was going to say his balls dropped, but if he was if he was only like 10 or something, then yeah, he's still going to be high pitched.
So yeah, that's
Mm.
that's a little on the creepy side, if you ask me. That like, if something like that happened to my child, I'd be keeping a firm eye on like what's going on here. Like, huh, okay, like do I need to burn a house down now, or
Or why is there a strange bloke in my kid's room?
So people would also claim that the facial expressions of the doll would change while listening to conversations around him.
Very weird.
Little bit, yeah, little bit.
I'd love to see his face after listening to an episode of this.
Oh,
He'd be
we
like,
would be cursed to all hell. Like, like that would be it for us. Like, we would be done.
nah, we'll just have another subscriber. Robert the doll. Robert the doll. He's got great taste in podcasts. Robert the doll. Come on, everyone. Robert the doll. Yeah, I haven't done a proper Spotify top 100 song this season yet.
I was going to say, you did say the other day that you hadn't done like a new song for an episode for a while. So
Exactly.
I'm
So here you
guessing
go.
that's it.
First one of the new album. It's quite catchy, isn't it? Robert the doll. Anyway.
Anyway, so one night when he was about 10 years old, the family would be woken up in the dead of night by Robert the boy screaming his head off, like pure, utterly terrified screams. So naturally, they jump out of bed, they run to his room, and they realise that they can't open the door. Like it's like something is holding the door closed. And all the while he is screaming, and there's the sounds of like what sounds like furniture being destroyed, for want of a better word. So finally they manage to get inside. The room itself is completely trashed, like furniture is upended, like things totally destroyed. Robert the boy, or Gene, is curled up in the corner, crying his eyes out, absolutely distraught, and all they can get out of him is Robert did it.
You're gonna bring the doll. Psycho kid.
And now this would actually continue for absolutely years afterwards. Like, whenever, like, he was being blamed for doing something or for any kind of like misbehavior, it would always be Robert did it or Robert made me do it. Which, honestly, like, it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility, because a lot of kids do that.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah. A lot of adults do it as well.
well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, Bernie and I have a similar thing of like, if something goes missing or gets misplaced, it's always, oh, the cats did it.
Well, yeah, cats are evil, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they can be. They can be pretty sus. It's true. But yeah. For us, it's always, oh, the cats did it. And the cats are just looking at us like, what? Don't blame us. You're just forgetful. Humans.
Question now. If this has been happening ongoing for all this time, why didn't the parents get rid of Robert, the doll?
Well,
or are you coming on to that?
I'm coming on to that.
Okay.
So, eventually, his parents would just get absolutely sick of this, and they would, in the end, confine Robert, the doll, to the attic. Like, they would, like, you know what, I've had enough now, you know, this has gone far too long, like, this ends now.
Yeah,
so
go chill out with Beetlejuice.
They shut him up in the attic, and, you know, that should have been the end of that. Of course, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, it'll be too easy.
Yeah, exactly. And the weird occurrences would kind of go on for many years, even though Robert was locked in the attic. And there'd be a really, like, quick changeover of staff in the home, because basically all the servants were terrified, because apparently they would hear like little like footsteps running around in the dead of night, and giggles, and there would apparently be stories of the neighborhood children like seeing Robert like staring at them from the window and like changing like the positions and like the different windows in the attic, and he'd just be like watching them apparently. And I mean, I think something like this, you know, it's like one of those old ghost stories of that haunted house on that particular street, where the kids kind of dare themselves and each other to kind of get as close as they can to, and then run away kind of thing. It's one of those.
Yeah.
kind of
I'm
things.
kind of feeling sorry for Robert the doll now because it seems to me like Jean, the kid,
Mm-hmm.
is a little shit. And Robert the doll is just a lovely little doll that just wants some pals. He's up in the window like, hey, come dance with me. With his different poses, like
My
you said.
friend, please.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like it up here. I can't dance footloose. Footloose, get club.
He's like, I don't want to be friends with the spiders up here.
No. And Beetlejuice is no fun.
So, like I said, like different stories would kind of circulate around the house for many years. Apparently, once a plumber who'd been hired to make repairs around the Otto's home claimed to have heard children's laughter, though no one was home at the time. When he looked round the room, the plumber noticed that Robert the doll had moved from one side of the window to the other, seemingly on his own. What's more, the plumber swore that objects had been in Robert's lap ended up on the other side of the room as if he'd thrown them.
There's no comment. No comment.
Goodness, people, you're not having a comment. This is new for you.
I'm just done.
Yes, I know. That's it.
Yeah, nah. These people are mental. Was this at an actual mental asylum? None of these people were actually employed. They were all inmates or patients. This is what it's going to turn out to be. They didn't actually work for this place. It was like Shutter
Yeah,
Island. Oh
all over
yeah,
Savannah Bly.
yeah. Oh, I'm a detective and I'm trying to solve this crime about this guy that murdered. And then at the end, actually, I'm a patient. All the listeners and viewers are nodding
So,
along.
yes, dear.
I was waiting for that.
Oh, come on. Like, you saw it coming. Like, we all knew it was coming at some point. So eventually Jean would actually go on to become a celebrated artist, studying art in major cities like Chicago, New York, and Paris. And while he studied at the Sorbonne, he met the woman who'd eventually become his wife, Annette Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1930, Jean and his wife returned to Key West, where they settled into Jean's childhood home. However, even as a newlywed, Jean's love for Robert never waned. Annette allowed Jean to continue caring for his friend, but she was definitely not a fan. To be fair, I can't really say I blame her. Like, there were clearly 3 people in that marriage.
Yeah, like, mate, there's only room for one bit of plastic in this relationship, and that's in the top drawer.
Oh, God. Oh,
Yeah, but in all
oh my God.
seriousness, you married someone.
Can
You're
you
like, you're a
imagine?
30-year-old
Like,
man, aren't you? Sort your shit out. You're a 30-year-old man. Get rid of the doll.
I mean, oh, like, can you imagine trying to consummate this marriage and just having this doll sat in the corner? Just it would
eyeballing
really
you.
piss you off, wouldn't it? Like, it would just kill the entire mood. Oh my God, that's terrifying. Listeners, be glad you're only listening and not watching this video, because that was, yeah, that was scary.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You love me, really.
Yes, dear.
Oh, that's not fair. Using my line against me.
So I told you, I'm taking over your job.
I see. First of all, you steal my line, then you steal the job. I see how it is.
Yeah.
So, Eventually, Otto would design a special room for Robert in the attic, complete with furniture, toys, and even a teddy bear of Robert's own. However, like I said, Otto's wife really was not that keen on his childhood toy and insisted on keeping the doll locked up.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I really don't blame her for this. I would probably do
No.
the same.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. That was weird.
Yeah. So Robert was allegedly not fond of this new setup. He is said to have repeatedly weaseled his way out and situated himself in a chair facing out of an upstairs window where he could be seen by passers-by below. Once again, people who passed 534 Eaton Street soon avoided walking near the house altogether. Locals swore that the doll would disappear and then reappear facing another direction, or that his gaze would follow them as they passed. Visitors inside the house also claimed that they could hear footsteps coming from the attic, and that things would seem to move about the home on their own with no explanation. And eventually it said that Anne had had enough of this and eventually left off her husband. Not only because of the whole, weird setup with the doll thing, but apparently Eugene is exactly the nicest person to be married to. It's said that he was quite abusive towards her, and especially when it came to arguments about the doll, he could get quite violent, and it was almost like his obsession about the doll kind of really shone through at those points. Like, it was literally a case, I think, at one point of, it's either me or the doll kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I bet she was glad that Robert the doll wasn't like one of those sock puppets, because we all know what Jean would have done with him.
Thanks for that, PJ.
She comes home one day and it's like, oh, I'm just not saying it.
Just don't go there. Just don't go there.
That's why they split up.
I really don't want to be cancelled on the second season, thanks.
This is great. This is great.
So he would remain at the house and would apparently pass away in 1974 by what's thought to have been Parkinson's.
Okay, yeah. Horrible disease.
Yeah. I wouldn't wish that on anyone,
No, it's horrible.
It is, yeah. And after he passed away, it said that another family moved in and they had a young daughter. And first of all, she was absolutely, over the moon to have found this doll to play with because, children love dolls. It wouldn't be too long before she would start, getting terrible nightmares and, saying that the doll was hurting her and things like that. And in the end, the parents would shut the doll in the basement. So, yeah, relegated from the attic, the highest point of the house with a lovely view, to the basement.
Yeah, literally, if you split a house into parts, you've got human part, spooky spirits and demons, spooky spirits and demons.
Yep. It's like we were saying last episode, that, the attic and the basement are where the spooky things live.
Exactly, which is why I said I love it. I love sleeping in those places. Because nothing's ever there apart from a spider to scare me.
In those places.
Exactly. Probably why they never come out.
So the third person to own the house and subsequently Robert the doll was a woman called Myrtle Rita.
Mm.
And she would actually live alongside him for about 20 years. And she even actually took him with her when she moved to a new home in the 1980s. So, first of all, she was quite like, you know, she quite liked him. Like, she thought that he was quite a sweet thing to have. And apparently, at Christmas time, she like dressed him up in little pajamas and put him next to the Christmas tree, kind of thing. Like, yeah,
That's
it was
cute.
quite a cute little thing. But after a while, weird things would start happening. You know, that she and her husband would hear like childish giggles when they didn't have anyone else in the house with them, and you know, the sounds like the little footsteps running around. And it got to the point where, like, after she'd moved to this new place and obviously had taken Robert the doll with her, apparently the real like turning point was when she'd been locked in a room at one point and
Oh yeah.
couldn't get out, and I believe that at that point, like, she was living by herself. I think her husband passed away by then, and yeah, apparently she'd been locked in this room and could just hear like giggles from the other side. At which point, that was when she was like, you know what? No, I'm done. I'm done. Like, I can't take this anymore. So she donated the toy to the Fort East Martello Museum in 1994.
Mm.
And apparently, you know, the museum didn't believe that, you know, that Robert was haunted. It was just, you know, a really cool toy to have on display, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And she would actually have a conversation with the Key West Art and Historical Society's director, Joe Pay, and where she set Robert down in a chair in this office during this meeting and said, "This is Robert. He's part of the Otto family, and I can't stand him being in my house anymore." Yeah, he's haunted. So, like I said, she just wanted him out of the way. Like, she was all too eager to sign the papers to donate him. And the sad thing is that she actually would pass away less than 3 months later. So whether, you know, this was simply a coincidence or some kind of curse by Robert that, you know, you abandoned me, evil woman, how dare you?
Odd. If that was the case, why didn't he? Oh, no, no. Well, just going back to when she was locked in that room, it's perfect opportunity to give you my scary story that I mentioned at the start of the
Oh,
podcast.
yes. Yes.
So I was probably about 7 or 8 at the time, and this was when I lived down in Pembroke Dock in Wales,
Mm-hmm.
and I was over my auntie's at one point, and everybody called her the witch, but like a bad version, because
Oh,
she is a
fair.
bitch.
Fair. Okay.
And she had this weird fascination with collecting porcelain dolls, but the ones that the only porcelain bit was the face, and it was painted like a clown. But the rest was, well, the hands were porcelain, but the rest was sort of fabric and
Yeah.
stuffing, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And she also used to collect these porcelain like plates. And she had this one room where the dolls were all lined up along the walls, the plates
Mm-hmm.
were all over the walls.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bed in there as well to
Oh,
sleep in.
no.
Who would have slept in that?
No.
And one day I was in there and I can't remember why I went in there to get something. told me to go and get something, and then I turned around and went to come back out, and the door was locked. And I just like nobody had locked it. There was no lock on the door,
Mm-hmm.
but it was locked. It was just, and I was stuck in there, and all I could see were these horrible dolls and clown
Oh
faces
no.
staring down at me, and I
Mm-mm.
was like gradually screaming louder and
I
louder.
don't blame you. That's horrible. Oh no.
Yeah, and then I got out and don't believe in any of that right now. So
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should say that actually because when I was growing up, I actually had quite a few porcelain dolls, and I think they'd been given to me by like an aunt or something like that for Christmas or birthdays or something like that.
yeah,
And like they were really, really pretty, like, beautifully made up. Like they each had their own unique name and name tag, and they were
hmm
really, really pretty. And I would have them on top of my wardrobe
yeah,
in my room. And when I was in the school, I had this friend, Jessica, who hated them. And so whenever she'd come over for the weekend and stay the night, we would have to literally turn these dolls round to face the wall so she couldn't see them, because
oh
like
god,
she could swear that like they were staring at her at night.
they probably were.
And like she just could not handle it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I always felt a little bit guilty with like having to turn them around to face the wall.
yeah. I
Like,
bet they were really sad about that.
yeah, he's like, I'm sorry. But yeah, no. Saying about like family members and stuff who had like rooms filled with like dolls. I remember having a neighbor, and they had like a huge, beautiful house. Like,
Yeah,
I think it was probably kind of like turn of the century, kind of like really
nice.
old place. Gorgeous too, massive. And one of the bedrooms that they had there was literally filled with China dolls, and they were like all around the walls, all on the beds, like and
No,
like I didn't like going in there. They were
no,
just
no,
no, just no.
no,
I can't
no.
do it.
No, you're a serial killer if you have stuff like that. No, just no.
Creepy thing is that they also had like a really seriously creepy cellar, and it was one of those that like spans the entire length of the house, and it was like they had like separate rooms,
Oh,
and
what in the
yeah,
cellar in the basement?
yeah, the basement.
Oh, yeah, that was a bit like the John Benet Ramsey house. They
Mm,
had different
yeah, and like you
rooms.
could get in either from the garden, or there were stairs leading down from the house itself. And yeah, no,
Ah,
I didn't like that. Like the house itself is gorgeous, but I did not like that basement.
no, no, ooh,
Just no,
no.
just no. The basement and
Uh,
and the doll room. Just no.
Yeah, just no,
Just
just
no.
no. So what was next for our friend Robert then?
So, um, so like I said, she was passed away less than 3 months after donating Robert to the museum. And after he arrived at the museum, paranormal activity decreased at the Artist House, which was the name that was given to the Otto residence in the end,
Yeah,
and increased at the museum. And almost immediately, apparently, museum employees reported their own strange happenings with the doll. Nonetheless, numerous visitors have lined up to see Robert the doll on display. Even stranger, fans and fearful believers often send letters directly to Robert, sometimes praying to him, sometimes apologising for having looked at him in the wrong way while visiting the museum, and also sometimes asking him to curse other people in their life.
Wow, you piece of shit.
Right? Like, you've got to really, really dislike someone.
and, and just going back to the looked at him in the wrong way. So, like, what if I, went there, you and I go there, and I think, actually, he's pretty fit. And I'm like giving him a side eye, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not into that." Would he like curse me?
Maybe.
We'll try it. I'll just slip a finger in.
So, would you like to know the rules about meeting Robert? Because there
Go on then.
are
Our
a
viewers and
number of
listeners will.
rules
I'll
that
just do what I
you
want,
have to
but
abide by.
yeah, I'll do what I want, but our viewers and listeners will want to know.
Okay, so rule number 1: always greet Robert politely and introduce yourself when you meet him. Number 2: do not tap or knock on a glass case that Robert is encased in. Number 3: do not make fun of Robert or his stuffed pet dog, or Eugene. Never question Robert's power or taunt him. Do not critique Robert's appearance or outfit. Do not critique the letters pinned to the wall. Always ask for Robert's permission before taking a photo of him, and thank Robert when you are leaving the exhibition or the museum. Many who have offended Robert the doll or disobeyed the rules above have had misfortunes or setbacks not long after their visitation to Fort East and Martello Museum, where Robert is housed in. Some of the minor incidents experienced by visitors include cameras that malfunction in the museum only to work again when they leave the property, an unexplainable sense of unease after staring at Robert's face, slipping and falling at Robert's exhibition area even though the floor is dry, getting in car accidents right outside the museum, and job losses, illnesses, relationship breakups, and financial woes days after meeting Robert the doll. While many of these misfortunes can be attributed to general bad luck, the numerous reports by visitors and timing of it, from just after meeting Robert, have led many to believe that it was the nefarious work of the haunted doll. So, who or what could be haunting the doll? There are a few theories as to this.
Mm.
Theories as to why Robert could be haunted are that the servant could have put a curse on the doll after Jean received it, which is, something that I did kind of wonder about, because obviously before we mentioned that it's unlikely that a servant could have been able to afford the doll outright,
Yeah.
So, odds are, they most likely cursed the doll after Robert had received it, knowing how close the boy was to Robert.
Yeah, what frustrates me about that is, again, as we mentioned in Julia Brown in the first season, voodoo is and historically a good religious belief. It's very unlikely that these curses occur in voodoo. It's usually for healing. But again, that's just the demonization of a different kind of belief system
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
than Christianity. So yeah, I don't agree with that. Nah, I don't think it was voodoo.
No.
What do I think it was?
To be honest, I do question that, for the reason that you mentioned. It's predominantly from obviously what you and I have researched about it. Yeah, voodoo seems to be quite a positive thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's a positive magic. Yeah.
So Robert could also be haunted by the spirit of a deceased child connected to the Otto family. And the most interesting theory is that Robert could have been charged by Jean's energy through the attachment and affection for Robert. So about the whole kind of like paranormal side of the origin story stems from the Otto family employed two servants from the West Indies, William and Emmeline Abbott. The Abbotts were a married couple who worked for the Ottos for many years, starting with Jean's grandfather, Joseph. The Abbotts were even buried in the Otto family plot. Now, something like this, like, that would have been practically unheard of at that stage in history. So it just kind of goes to show how important the Abbotts were to the Otto family.
Yeah, yeah. So, and these are the people that are supposed to have cursed the doll.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
so yeah, if they were treated like that, like pretty much an extension of the family, what motivation would they have to curse the thing and
I'm
hurt the
getting to
child?
that. I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll shut up again.
So Emmeline Abbott gave birth to two children in 1900 and 1910. And while there's no actual evidence to prove it, there's speculation that Emmeline Abbott may have had an affair with Jean's father, Thomas. Now, as like when they say affair, it kind of makes me wonder whether it was some affair of like the heart kind of thing, or whether it was something that she was pushed into by Jean's father. Because, you know, at that kind of time, like, hired helps and domestic servants weren't exactly treated well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And information obtained from several documents is cause to suspect that Thomas may have been unfaithful. According to Minnie Otto's journal, Jean's mother, her husband received a lot of attention from women, and that women in the community resented her because she wasn't from a wealthy background. Minnie also didn't want to be buried in the family plot for some reason either. So that kind of suggests there was some kind of family drama or dispute for something like that. There's
Yeah.
also mention of some interesting fatherly advice that Joseph gave to Thomas. Jean's grandfather is quoted as advising his son about venereal disease and to practice not abstinence but polyphatic care. So, in other words, it's probably okay to cheat on your wife, just wrap it up.
Okay.
So,
Cheers, Dad.
right? Nothing like a bit of a fatherly wisdom there.
Wow.
So the following are theories as to who haunts Robert: the spirit of Thomas Otto and Emmeline Abbott's child, or that is her deceased child conceived with conceived with her husband William. Another theory is that Emmeline used magic to trap her child's spirit in the doll. Perhaps Jean's attachment to Robert stems from Robert being haunted by a half sibling. Visitors to the museum, as well as members of the family, have said as well as members of staff, have said that they have seen the apparition of what appears to be a female child of mixed race around Robert the doll. She's described as about 5 years old with long brown curly hair, wearing an old-fashioned type nightgown. Mr. Myers served as a caretaker for the artist house during the 1980s, and she described seeing the spirit of the little girl sitting on the staircase. She also mentioned that the little girl seemed almost angry. So there's a couple of potential theories as to the whole like paranormal like circulation around Robert the doll, because they do say that like spirits can attach themselves to inanimate objects.
Yeah, and the theories, well, they're all kind of one theory, really. They all relate to the Abbots. But at least it's given the indication that it's not demonic because, and one of the reasons is that Robert stayed well, whatever supposedly is haunting him stayed where he was, because with demons, they follow people
Yeah.
around supposedly.
Yeah.
But you had to be in that location to be affected. So yeah, just call the Ghostbusters. They'll sort them out. I'll chuck them in the fire. Be like, "Oh, shut up, mate. Do my head in." Use them for rugby practice. Just booting.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, if I had this thing in my house, I would probably just burn it. Like, I wouldn't mess around and spend ages and years with it mucking around. It's just like, yeah, no, like, I'm done. Like, you all had a chances now, but like,
yeah, exactly. Gross.
Just no, absolutely not.
Okay, so that was interesting. Thanks for giving a bit more of the detail and the theories around, why all of those were supposedly, the events supposedly happened. Unsurprisingly, my verdict is it's
all
just a load of hocus pocus.
There we go.
Because there's no hardcore evidence. It's just hearsay and people getting worked into a frenzy to create PR to sell more tickets to go and visit the little straw bastard.
Okay, so here's a question for you.
Go on then.
Would you ever go to see him in a museum?
Yeah, we're going, aren't we? And I'm going to knock on his cage. I'm going to take a picture with him without asking. I'm going to call Gene a psychopathic loser who needed to get rid of him when he was a kid. I'm going to say his clothes look like dirt.
You're going to be just like hit by lightning on the way out, aren't you?
10 times for every rule I broke.
Right? And I'm just going to stood there like, I told you.
But as the god of lightning and thunder, I'll be fine.
Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening.
Galileo! Galileo!
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt to go that high.
I'm a eunuch, so it's fine, I can.
So, listeners and watchers, what do you think? Do you think there's anything to it? Or do you think, like PJ, it's all just a bunch of hocus pocus and people being very, very weird and eccentric?
Great story, though. Great story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's one of my favourites. And I got so annoyed the other week when I watched The Curse of Robert on Netflix. I was so annoyed.
I just couldn't. That was so funny. Yeah, watchers, viewers, listeners, go and watch it, because the clips that I saw that Nell sent me, I was screaming, laughing. It was just
it's
so bad.
It's an hour and a half of your life you were never going to get back.
Quite like our podcast.
We love you guys.
Exactly. We do. Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you're listening, would really, really help the show. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, a thumbs up in the comment down below would also really help. And if true crime and more spooks are your thing, then why don't you head on over to PJ's channel Surreal Chillers or mine Nell's Crypt for more spooky goodness. Until next time, dear listeners, dear watchers, stay spooky.
Stay spooky.
Bye.